They called him Azarel, but that name was only whispered, never spoken aloud. In the small mountain village of Briar Hollow, stories had been passed down for generations about a demon who walked among men. Not in shadows, not hidden, but among them, unseen. The legend said Azarel was not summoned like other demons. He did not need rituals, symbols, or offerings. Instead, he chose where to appear, slipping through cracks in the world when faith was weakest. No one believed it, of course, until the winter of 1978. The first snow had fallen hard that year, burying the crooked rooftops and pine-choked hills under a suffocating white. Briar Hollow was isolated at the best of times, but that winter it felt severed from the world entirely. Roads vanished beneath the drifts. The mountain pass closed. The villagers were alone. It began with a fire in the chapel. The villagers swore they heard screams coming from inside, though the church was empty. The flames rose high, eating the steeple until it cracked and toppled into the snow. But what terrified them was not the fire itself, it was what was left behind. Inside, on the stone floor where the altar had once stood, the fire had carved a shape, a circle, blackened and perfect, as though no human hand could have made it. At its center, the stone was split, jagged, as though something had clawed its way out from below. The priest, Father Kalen, insisted it was an accident, a trick of the fire. His voice was calm, almost too calm. Yet the villagers noticed it trembled with an edge they had never heard before. They noticed something else too. His voice seemed lower. His sermons sounded hollow, each word dragging as though it had to be pulled from deep within him. And his eyes, once warm, never seemed to meet theirs anymore. Within days, strange things began to happen. Livestock were found dead in the fields, bodies untouched but their eyes missing, sockets black and wet as if something had licked them clean. Children woke screaming in the night, claiming a tall shadow stood at the foot of their beds, whispering their names. The air itself seemed wrong, too heavy, too still. The forest was silent, the birds vanished, and the snow lay smooth and untouched. Yet when men returned from hunting, they spoke in hushed voices of footsteps following them in the drifts, footsteps that vanished when they turned. Then came the deaths. The first was old Mrs. Hanley, who lived at the edge of the hollow. They found her frozen on her porch, her rocking chair swaying gently as though she had only just risen from it. Her face was contorted, mouth stretched wide in a silent scream. Her hands clutched the arms of the chair so tightly her fingernails had split. The second was a hunter named Jonas Briggs. His body was discovered deep in the forest, every bone in his body shattered from within, but his skin unbroken, not a scratch upon him.
The coroner refused to speak of it, only crossing himself again and again as he whispered. It was as if he was crushed from the inside. The third was Father Kalen himself, though not in the way anyone expected. It happened during a gathering in the village square. The people of Briar Hollow had come together, desperate for answers, for comfort, for the priest to assure them that God still walked with them. Instead, Kalen stood tall at the center of the crowd and began to speak. But it wasn't his voice, it was something else. Something deeper, ancient, layered, as though 100 voices were speaking at once. His eyes rolled back into his skull, leaving only whites that glowed faintly in the torchlight. His body twisted unnaturally, joints bending in directions no human could survive. The crowd screamed, but none could move, as if the air itself pinned them in place. His mouth stretched wider and wider, until his jaw cracked. His final words echoed across Briar Hollow, carried on a wind that made the torches shudder and die. I have walked with you. I have feasted in silence. I am Azarel, and this ground is mine. Then the body collapsed, lifeless, steaming in the snow. But something had already left it. From that night on, Briar Hollow was never the same. Families began to vanish without a trace. Houses stood empty, doors hanging open, meals half-eaten on tables as though their occupants had risen in the middle of dinner and never returned. Horses wandered loose through the snow. Smoke rose from chimneys only to die out by morning. The sound of laughter might carry from a window at dusk, but by dawn the house would be silent, its hearth cold. Travelers avoided the roads leading to the mountains. Maps stopped naming the village, and slowly, as years passed, the world forgot Briar Hollow ever existed. But stories lingered, survivors few, scattered, and broken spoke of what they saw in the nights after Callan's death. They described a figure impossibly tall, cloaked in black, its face hidden beneath a veil of smoke. They said its eyes glowed faintly red, but only for a moment, before vanishing like dying embers. They said it whispered promises wealth, love, immortality, and a voice so sweet it made you want to believe. And they said those who answered that voice never walked the earth again. Azarel, they claimed, did not kill quickly. He hollowed people out from the inside. He drained them of hope, of will, of soul, until they were nothing but shells. Then he wore their bodies like masks. He walked into homes, sat at tables, smiled with faces that weren't his. Whole families disappeared this way. One night, you would hear music and laughter spilling from a house. The next morning it would be silent, the door open, the rooms empty, and on the floor, a scattering of ash that shifted with the draft. The few who left Briar Hollow told darker stories still. One boy swore he saw his mother in the woods after she vanished, standing among the trees, her dress fluttering though no wind stirred. She raised her hand and beckoned. He nearly ran to her, until he saw her eyes. Hollow sockets, faintly glowing red. Another man claimed his wife came to him in bed one night after she had been missing for weeks. She lay down beside him, whispered his name, pressed her hand to his chest, but her skin was cold. When he turned to look at her face, it was smoke. The others said nothing, their silence more damning than their words. To this day, hikers swear they find remnants of Briar Hollow, broken crosses half buried in the snow, charred stone foundations where houses once stood, children's toys blackened by fire, and sometimes, if the wind is just right, they hear bells ringing faintly from beneath the earth, the echoes of a chapel long gone. Locals warn of one thing above all: if you ever hear 3 knocks in the woods, you must never answer, for it is not a person at your door, it is Azarel, asking permission to come in. And the cruelest truth is this: he does not force his way, he waits until you invite him. The demon needs only a crack, a moment of doubt, a whisper of curiosity, and once you let him in, there is no turning back. So if you ever find yourself in the mountains, and the air grows heavy, and the forest turns silent, remember this: you're not alone. Something ancient still walks there, wearing the faces of the forgotten, and his name is Azarel. He waits for the night when someone, somewhere, speaks his name aloud, because once you do, he is already listening, and once he listens, he never stops.